I let my dad's affair baby crash at my place, temporarily when he begged for help. Then I kicked him out when he started trashing the place. 2 weeks later, he showed up with his crew and cornered me in my garage. So I took my revenge. Sup? Reddit. After years of no contact, my half-brother showed up homeless and begged me for help. So I let him in temporarily. I finally kicked him out when he turned the place into a flophouse. He got violent, and I taught him the hard way that I don't play games. Here's what went down. I'm 29 male, a graphic designer, and up until last year I thought my life was pretty solid. Nice house in Portland, good job, my German Shepherd Onyx, and zero family drama. My old man Robert died when I was 23. See, dear old dad was a piece of work. Married my mom, had me, then spent my entire childhood cheating with his secretary Lillian. When I was 12, he finally left us for her. Traded in the family for a younger model who was already pregnant with his do-over baby. The divorce destroyed my mom. We went from middle class to food stamps while dad played house with his new family. I saw him maybe 6 times after the divorce, always promising we'd spend more time together soon. So imagine my surprise when I get this text on a random Tuesday. Hey Derek, this is Kyle, your brother. I really need your help, man. Can we talk? Kyle, the affair baby. The kid who got the dad I never had. My first instinct was to delete it and block the number. And that's exactly what I did. I had zero interest in connecting with the kid who got the dad I never had. But Kyle wasn't giving up that easy. Over the next few days, the messages kept coming from different numbers. Please just give me a chance to explain. I know you probably hate me, but I'm desperate. I have no one. I'm sleeping in my car and have nowhere else to turn. I ignored them all. Changed my number, blocked him on social media, figured that would be the end of it. 2 weeks later, I'm getting home from work, and there's someone sitting on my front steps. It was Kyle. Skinny, dirty, looking like he hadn't showered in days. He stood up when he saw me. Derek, I'm Kyle. Your brother. How did you find my address? It wasn't hard. I've been trying to reach you for weeks, man. I need help. He looked pathetic, genuinely broken. His car was parked on the street with clothes and blankets visible in the back seat. What do you want? Just a place to crash for a few days. I swear, just until I can get back on my feet. I've got job interviews lined up. I just need an address to put on applications. And here's where I screwed up. See, I know what it's like to have nothing. After Dad left, Mom and I struggled for years. I remembered being 14 and eating peanut butter sandwiches for dinner while wondering if we'd make rent. Looking at Kyle sitting on my steps, I saw myself at that age. I can't just let a stranger into my house. I don't know you. I know, I get it. But we're family, Derek. We're the only family each other has left. Family. That word hit harder than it should have. Kyle must have seen me wavering because he pressed his advantage. Just 1 week. Give me 1 week to prove I'm not some scumbag. I'll sleep on the couch, stay out of your way, help with whatever you need. Please. He went on back and forth for like 10 minutes. I looked at this kid, my half-brother, sitting there with everything he owned in a beat-up Honda. I felt something I didn't expect. Guilt. So I made a big mistake. 1 week? I said. That's it. You help around the house, you look for work, and you don't bring any drama to my door. Thank you, Derek. I swear you won't regret this. I immediately called my best friend Danny to tell him what I'd done. Bro, are you insane? Danny's been my ride or die since college. You don't know this kid from Adam, and now you're letting him into your house? It's just for a few days, man. He's family. Hitler probably had relatives too. Doesn't mean you invite them over for dinner? Danny had a point, but it was too late. I'd already given my word. That evening, a rusty Honda pulled into my driveway. Kyle stepped out looking exactly like someone who'd been living in their car, but he cleaned up nicely. After a shower and some food, he actually seemed like a decent guy. Polite, grateful, kept thanking me every 5 minutes. He was 24, worked construction when he could find it, and had been bouncing between jobs and girlfriends for the past few years. I just need to get back on my feet, he said, sitting on my couch with a plate of leftover pizza. Maybe save up enough for a deposit on an apartment. He seemed genuine. Broken maybe, but genuine. That first week, Kyle was the perfect house guest. Cleaned up after himself, stayed out of my way during work hours, even walked Onyx a few times. We'd watch TV in the evenings, and he'd tell stories about growing up with Dad, stories that painted a very different picture than the deadbeat I remembered. According to Kyle, Dad talked about me all the time, regretted how things ended, wanted to rebuild our relationship, but didn't know how. Yeah, because picking up a phone is rocket science. I wanted to believe it. Maybe Dad had changed. Maybe he'd learned from his mistakes with his second family. By the end of week 2, I was actually enjoying having him around. It was nice having someone to talk to in the evenings, someone to split the grocery bills with. Onyx loved him, which I took as a good sign. Danny kept warning me. Something's off about this dude. People who've been living in their cars aren't usually this well-adjusted. But I ignored him. Kyle was family, right? And he was trying. That had to count for something. What an idiot I was. Week 3 is when things started getting weird. First, Kyle asked if his friend Jake could come over to help him look for jobs online. I said sure, thinking it was just for an afternoon. Jake turned out to be this sketchy-ass dude with neck tattoos and the kind of nervous energy that screams, recently released from county jail. Real quality networking there, Kyle. They spent 4 hours on my computer looking for jobs, but I could hear them laughing and watching YouTube videos. When I checked my browser history later, they'd been on gaming sites and porn for most of the afternoon. I let it slide. Figured Kyle was embarrassed about job hunting and needed moral support. Then, Kyle started treating my kitchen like his personal restaurant. Used all my good pans, left dishes in the sink for days, ate food I'd bought for myself without asking. When I mentioned it, he'd apologize and promise to do better. But nothing changed. Just talk to him, Danny advised when I vented about it. Set some boundaries before this gets out of hand. So I did. Sat Kyle down and explained house rules. Clean up after yourself, ask before eating my food, no guests without permission. Of course, man. I'm sorry. Won't happen again. Except it did happen again. The very next day. I came home from a client meeting to find 3 people I'd never seen before hanging out in my living room, smoking and playing video games on my TV. Kyle was passed out on the couch like he'd been drinking since noon. Kyle. I shook him awake. What the hell is this? Oh, hey Derek. These are my buddies from work. We just finished a job and wanted to celebrate. I told you no guests without permission. Sorry, I forgot. We'll keep it down. No, they need to leave. Now. Kyle's friends looked at me like I was the asshole. One of them, this big dude with a shaved head, actually laughed. Damn, Kyle, your brother's uptight as hell. I kicked them out that night, but Kyle pulled the victim card hard. Talked about how hard it was to make friends when you're homeless, how these guys were helping him find steady work, how he was just trying to celebrate finally getting his life together. I felt like a dick. Maybe I was being too harsh. Maybe I needed to give him more space to rebuild his social life. God, I was naive. Week 4, Kyle brought a girl home. Didn't ask, didn't give me a heads up, just waltzed in at midnight with some tweaker-looking chick who reeked of cigarettes and bad decisions. I woke up to them having loud, obnoxious sex in my guest room at 2 a.m. My house has thin walls, and Onyx was whining because the noise was stressing him out. The next morning, I found them both in my kitchen, making breakfast with food from my fridge. The girl, Tiffany or Brittany or something equally trashy, was wearing one of my t-shirts like it was no big deal. Kyle, we need to talk. What's up, bro? You can't bring random people here to spend the night. This isn't a hotel. She's not random, she's my girlfriend. And it's not like we were bothering anyone. You woke me up. You woke up my dog. And why the hell is she wearing my clothes? Tiffany rolled her eyes. It's just a t-shirt, dude. Chill. I wanted to throw them both out right then. But Kyle pulled out the waterworks again. Talked about how Tiffany was helping him stay clean. How she was a good influence. How they were serious about each other. Just give us a chance to prove we can be respectful people, he said. By the end of month 1, Kyle had completely taken over my guest room. Moved in a mini fridge, set up a gaming station, hung posters on my walls without asking. When I pointed out that he was supposed to be saving money for his own place, he hit me with more sob stories. Job market was tough. He was getting close to landing something good. Just needed a few more weeks. His girlfriend needed a stable place to stay while she got clean. And like an idiot, I believed him. Month 2 is when Kyle stopped pretending this was temporary. He'd completely moved into the guest room. Not just clothes and toiletries, but furniture, electronics, even a freaking minibar he'd bought with money he supposedly didn't have. Tiffany was basically living there full-time now. But the real problem wasn't Kyle anymore. It was Kyle's friends. These weren't the construction workers he'd originally claimed to know. These were low-life scumbags who treated my house like their personal hangout spot. I'd come home from work to find 4 or 5 random people in my living room, using my PlayStation, acting like they lived there. Kyle would introduce them as family friends or work buddies, but I could tell these were just deadbeats who'd found a new place to freeload. The worst was the big shaved head guy. He was this 30-something burnout with a face full of piercings and an attitude like the world owed him something. He'd park his beat-up motorcycle in my driveway, blocking my car, then act offended when I asked him to move it. Relax, man. It's just a driveway. It's my driveway. Kyle said you were cool about sharing. I snapped that night. These people need to stop coming over every day. This is getting out of hand. They're just hanging out, Derek. What's the big deal? The big deal is that I didn't sign up to house half of Portland's unemployed population. This was supposed to be temporary. It is temporary. I'm working on getting my own place. With what money? You haven't had a job since you got here. Look, I didn't ask to be born into this fucked up family situation, okay? Dad left both of us with nothing. The least you can do is help me out while I get back on my feet. I felt that familiar stab of guilt. But Danny set me straight when I told him about the conversation. Bro, he's playing you like a freaking violin. Even if his sob story is true, and that's a big if, it doesn't give him the right to turn your house into a crack den. It's not that bad. Derek, yesterday you told me you found needles in your bathroom trash. Needles. He was right. I'd found them in my guest bathroom and confronted Kyle about it. He swore it wasn't his, blamed it on one of his friends, and promised it wouldn't happen again. But the fact that people were shooting up in my house was a pretty clear sign that things had gone way too far. The breaking point came during week 6. I'd gone to Seattle for a long weekend to visit a client, told Kyle I'd be back Sunday evening, and expected the house to be clean and empty when I returned. I came home to what looked like the aftermath of a 3-day music festival. Empty bottles and cans covered every surface. Someone had puked in my kitchen sink and not cleaned it up. My back door was standing wide open, and there were cigarette burns on my deck railing. But the worst part? My home office had been ransacked. My headset was missing, along with some tools, and about $300 in cash I kept in my desk drawer. Kyle was passed out on my couch, reeking of alcohol and God knows what else. I shook him awake and pointed to my empty office. Where are my headphones? What? I don't know, man. Must have been one of the guys. I told you no one was supposed to be here. We just had a few people over. It wasn't a big deal. Someone fucking stole from me, Kyle. That sucks, man. Maybe Jake knows something about it. Jake, the sketchy friend from week 3. Of course. Call him, now. I can't, he's not answering his phone. Convenient. I called the police and filed a theft report. After the break-in, I gave Kyle one last chance to prove he wasn't a complete piece of shit. Here's the deal, I told him the next morning. Your friends are banned from this house, permanently. You help me replace what was stolen, or you pay me back over time, and you start actively looking for your own place. Kyle nodded along like he understood. Absolutely, Derek. I feel terrible about what happened. I'll make this right. For exactly 3 days, he kept his word. No friends over, helped clean the house, even printed out some job applications. I started thinking maybe the shock of almost getting me robbed had finally gotten through to him. Then Thursday happened. I was in the middle of a video conference with a client when I heard loud music coming from downstairs. Went to investigate and found Kyle and Tiffany having what they called a small celebration because she'd supposedly gotten a job at some restaurant. 6 people drinking and smoking in my living room at 2 p.m. on a weekday while I was trying to work. Kyle, what the hell? I'm in a meeting. Sorry, we'll keep it down. No, they need to leave. Now, I told you no more friends over. One of the guys stood up. Man, why are you being such a dick to your brother? He's just trying to have a good time. It's my house and I'm working. Maybe you should get a real job instead of playing on your computer all day. I'm not a violent guy, but something about this piece of shit talking down to me in my own house flipped a switch. I stepped toward him, and Kyle jumped between us. Whoa, everyone calm down. Derek is just stressed about work stuff. I'm stressed because my house has turned into a freaking flop house. Kyle's friends laughed like I was the punchline to some joke. Tiffany actually rolled her eyes and muttered something about uptight rich boys. That night, I gave Kyle an ultimatum. You have 48 hours to find somewhere else to stay. I'm done. Come on, Derek. Don't be like this. We can work something out. No, we can't. I've been more than generous, and you've shit all over my hospitality. Get out. What if I can't find a place that fast? Not my problem. He tried every manipulation tactic in the book. When that didn't work, he played the homeless card again. You're really going to put me back on the streets? Your own brother? You're not my brother. You're a stranger who shares some DNA and has been taking advantage of my kindness for 2 months. Friday came and went. Kyle made no effort to pack or leave. Saturday morning, I found him making breakfast like nothing had changed. I thought I told you to be gone by now. I've been looking, but everything's so expensive. Just give me another number. Get out today, or I'm calling the police. You wouldn't call the cops on family. Watch me. That's when his mask slipped. Fine. You want to be a selfish asshole? Go ahead, but I'm not leaving. This is my home too now. I've been living here for 2 months. I have tenant rights. You don't pay rent. You're not on any lease. You're a guest who's overstayed his welcome. Prove it. I get mail here now. My girlfriend practically lives here. Good luck explaining to a judge why you're trying to illegally evict your homeless brother. He was right about the mail. He'd been having packages and letters sent to my address. Clever little sociopath had been building a paper trail to establish residency. I called Danny immediately. I know a lawyer who specializes in this kind of bullshit, but in the meantime, you need to document everything. Start building your own paper trail. That weekend was a war of attrition. Kyle and Tiffany made as much noise as possible. Loud music, shouting, slamming doors. They ordered pizza and had it delivered to my address, then claimed they didn't have money to pay for it. They invited more friends over and told them I was having a breakdown and trying to kick out my own family. Sunday night, I'd had enough. I changed the Wi-Fi password, turned off the guest room's circuit breaker, and removed all the food from the kitchen. If he wanted to play hardball, I could play harder. Monday morning, he confronted me in the kitchen. You can't do this. It's illegal to shut off utilities on a tenant. You're not a tenant. You're a trespasser. We'll see what the police say about that. Go ahead and call them. Kyle's confidence wavered for the first time. He hadn't expected me to call his bluff. That afternoon, while I was at a client meeting, Kyle made his biggest mistake yet. He broke into my bedroom and stole my iPad, my watch, and the $800 emergency cash I kept in my nightstand. Left my room trashed, probably looking for more valuables. When I got home and discovered the theft, I didn't hesitate. Called 911 immediately. I need to report a burglary. Someone broke into my bedroom and stole several items. Is the perpetrator still on the premises? Yes. He's my half-brother who's been staying here as a guest. I've asked him to leave multiple times and now he's stealing from me. 2 officers arrived within 20 minutes. Kyle tried to play the victim card again, claiming I was trying to illegally evict him, that he was just borrowing some things because I'd cut off his access to basic necessities. But I had receipts. When the officers searched Kyle's room, they found my stuff hidden in his duffel bag. Sir, you're under arrest for burglary and theft? As they cuffed him, he looked at me with pure hatred. This isn't over, Derek. You just screwed with the wrong person. He was right about one thing. It wasn't over. It was just getting started. Getting Kyle arrested felt like a victory, but it lasted about 48 hours. He posted bail Tuesday morning, money he'd borrowed from some friend apparently, and immediately launched a full-scale character assassination campaign against me. And by Wednesday, my phone was blowing up with angry messages from relatives I hadn't spoken to in years. Aunt Sophia, how could you have your own brother arrested? He was just trying to get back on his feet. Uncle Jim, your father would be disgusted by how you treated Kyle. My father would be disgusted? The same father who abandoned me for Kyle's family? The irony was fucking hilarious. Suddenly, everyone's a family expert when they need something. He was also posting on social media, playing the victim harder than a professional wrestler. His Facebook post went viral in our extended family circle. So my half-brother Derek kicked me out and had me arrested for trying to survive. I was homeless, and he was the only family I had left. I guess blood really doesn't mean anything when you're struggling. Thanks for showing me who you really are, bro. Oscar-worthy performance. Too bad the Academy doesn't give awards for best manipulation in a social media post. The post had dozens of comments from people calling me heartless, selfish, and worse. I tried posting my side of the story with photos of the damage and copies of the police report, but Kyle's version was already spreading faster than gonorrhea in a college dorm. Danny was furious. This kid's got balls, I'll give him that. Robbing you and then playing victim when he gets caught. What should I do? Everyone thinks I'm the asshole. Screw what everyone thinks. Let him dig his own grave. But Kyle wasn't done digging yet. He was just getting started. Thursday night, I came home to find my front door had been kicked in. Nothing was stolen this time, but someone had trashed my living room and spray-painted Dick on my kitchen wall. I called the police again, but without witnesses or security footage, there wasn't much they could do. Kyle had an alibi. He was at some bar with friends when it happened, but I knew it was him or one of his crew. Friday morning, I woke up to find all 4 of my car tires slashed. Saturday, someone threw a brick through my front window with a note attached. You started this. The harassment escalated throughout the week. Anonymous phone calls at all hours. Pizza deliveries I didn't order. Craigslist ads posted with my address offering free furniture, which resulted in strangers showing up at my door all day. But the worst part was the flying monkeys. Family members who kept reaching out to mediate the situation. Monday brought a new escalation. Kyle and 2 of his friends showed up at my office building. They didn't come inside, just hung around the parking lot, waiting to talk. I noticed them from my office window and made a mental note to document this harassment. My coworkers noticed and started asking questions I didn't want to answer. I called Danny after work. This is getting out of hand. I can't live like this. Then don't. It's time to stop playing defense and start playing offense. What do you mean? I mean, Kyle wants a war? Give him one? But fight smart. He had a point. I spent the next few days doing my own detective work. Found Kyle's arrest records through public databases. Turns out he had a history of this shit. 3 previous arrests for theft, 2 restraining orders from ex-girlfriends, and a suspended sentence for assault that could be revoked if he got in trouble again. Danny helped me install security cameras around my house, and I started recording every interaction with Kyle or his friends. If they wanted to play games, I'd make sure I had evidence of everything, but he wasn't done. The week after I installed the security cameras, Kyle tried a different approach. The sympathy tour. Suddenly, I'm getting calls from people I actually cared about. Old family friends, my mom's relatives, all telling me the same sob story. He was good at playing the wounded puppy while conveniently leaving out the theft, drug use, and property damage. But the sympathy tour was just a distraction. While Kyle was busy painting himself as the victim, his friends were escalating the harassment. Wednesday morning, I found dog shit smeared on my car windshield. Thursday, someone poured sugar in my gas tank. Friday, my mailbox was destroyed with what looked like a baseball bat. Poor Onyx was getting stressed out by all the chaos. That's when Danny suggested we get proactive. You've got security cameras now, right? Let's catch these assholes in the act. How? Set a trap. Make them think you're vulnerable, then document everything when they take the bait. So we planned it out. Saturday night, I posted on social media that I was going out of town for the weekend to visit family and get away from all the drama. Made it look like my house would be empty and unguarded. Then Danny and I set up in my neighbor's garage with a clear view of my property, armed with cameras and more patience than 2 grown men should probably have on a Saturday night. Around 2 a.m., a beat-up sedan pulled up in front of my house. Kyle got out, along with his girlfriend Tiffany and 2 guys I didn't recognize. They spent 20 minutes vandalizing my property, spray painting my garage door, smashing plant pots, prying at my front door with a crowbar. We got it all on video. I let them finish their little art project, then called 911. The police arrived within 10 minutes. Kyle and his crew tried to run, but one of the new guys, apparently not the brightest bulb, tripped over my fence and ate shit on my driveway. This time I had everything. Video evidence, multiple witnesses, and Kyle caught red-handed with burglary tools. But he still tried to play victim. "This is harassment," he yelled as they cuffed him. "He's been provoking us for weeks." The arresting officer looked at the spray paint, the damaged property, and the attempted break-in, then looked at Kyle like he was mentally deficient. "Son, you're on someone else's property at 2 a.m. with burglary tools. Save the sob story for your lawyer." They arrested all 4 of them. Kyle for attempted burglary and violation of his bail conditions, Tiffany for criminal mischief, and the 2 guys for burglary and possession. One of them had meth in his pocket. I thought that would be the end of it. He was looking at serious jail time, especially with his previous record. His little crew was scattered, and the family sympathy tour would probably lose steam once word got out about the arrest. I was wrong. 3 weeks later, Kyle posted bail again, and this time he was done playing games. Sunday afternoon, I was in my garage working on my bike when I heard footsteps behind me. Turned around to find Kyle standing in my doorway with 3 guys I'd never seen before, all bigger and meaner looking than his usual crew. Time to settle this, Derek. Because nothing says family reunion like bringing back up to a friendly chat. I assessed my options quickly. 4 against 1 wasn't good odds, but I wasn't going down without a fight. "Kyle, what the fuck are you doing?" What I should have done weeks ago. Teaching you some respect. What happened next lasted maybe 2 minutes, but felt like an hour. Kyle and his crew worked me over like I owed them money. Fists, boots, a freaking tire iron. I gave as good as I got initially, but 4-on-1 wasn't exactly fair odds. They broke 2 of my ribs, gave me a concussion, and left me bleeding on my garage floor. Before they left, Kyle leaned down and whispered in my ear, "This is what happens when you screw with me. Drop the charges, or next time we won't stop at just beating your ass." I lay there for maybe 20 minutes, making sure they were actually gone before I crawled to my phone and called 911. No point rushing into another ambush. Danny arrived before the ambulance, took one look at me, and went absolutely nuclear. "Those pieces of shit are dead. I don't care if he is your brother. Don't do anything stupid, Danny. Let me handle this." "Handle it? Derek, they almost killed you." He was right. At the hospital, the doctor told me I was lucky. Another few inches lower with that tire iron, and we'd be talking about internal bleeding. The police took photos of my injuries, collected the tire iron Kyle's crew had left behind, idiots, and put out warrants for all 4 of them. Kyle was arrested that night at Tiffany's apartment. This time, there was no bail. Assault with a deadly weapon, violation of his previous bail conditions, and my lawyer was pushing for attempted murder. But lying in that hospital bed, I realized something important. Kyle had just made the biggest mistake of his life. 6 months later, Kyle's entire world had collapsed, and I'd barely lifted a finger to make it happen. See, here's what Kyle never understood. When you make someone's life hell, they tend to get very motivated to return the favor. And unlike Kyle, I'm actually smart about it. While he was sitting in county jail waiting for trial, I was working with my lawyer and Danny to destroy every aspect of his pathetic existence. First, we went after his criminal case. My lawyer pushed hard for maximum charges: aggravated assault, home invasion, stalking, harassment. With Kyle's prior record and the video evidence of his vandalism spree, the prosecutor was happy to throw the book at him. But the real genius move was going after his crew. Danny had noticed Dylan, the big guy, always seemed to have way more cash than someone unemployed should have. So we did some digging. Turns out he was dealing drugs out of his apartment. Anonymous tip to the police led to a raid that netted enough meth to upgrade his charges to distribution. Suddenly, Kyle's main enforcer was looking at 5 to 10 years and had zero motivation to stay loyal. Tiffany rolled over first. Faced with felony charges and a boyfriend who couldn't make bail, she cut a deal to testify against Kyle in exchange for probation. Turns out she had some very interesting stories about Kyle planning the attacks, bragging about teaching his rich brother a lesson, and recruiting people specifically to intimidate me. Loyalty lasted about as long as Kyle's sobriety, which is to say, not very long. The third guy, some loser named Travis, got picked up on an unrelated warrant and decided prison wasn't for him either. Another cooperating witness with detailed knowledge of Kyle's harassment campaign. By the time Kyle's trial started, his legal team was basically playing defense against a mountain of evidence and his own crew's testimony. But that was just the beginning. See, Kyle had made enemies everywhere he went, and I spent months tracking down every single one of them. Remember Lillian, Kyle's mom? Turns out she'd been enabling Kyle's bullshit for years, bailing him out of trouble, making excuses for his behavior, and probably committing welfare fraud to support his drug habits. An anonymous tip to social services led to an investigation that discovered she'd been collecting benefits for Kyle while he was staying at my house. The landlord who'd evicted Kyle before he showed up at my place? I tracked him down through public records and found out Kyle had caused thousands in damage and never paid for it. Helped the landlord track down Kyle's assets, which weren't much, and file a civil judgment against him. The ex-girlfriends who'd gotten restraining orders? I found their contact information and connected them with a victim's rights advocate who helped them understand that Kyle's recent assault charges meant he could be classified as a habitual offender. But my favorite move was going after Kyle's social media victim tour. Remember all those Facebook posts? I screenshot everything before Kyle's lawyer could tell him to delete it. Then Danny and I spent weeks tracking down every person who'd shared or commented on Kyle's posts. Each one got a certified letter with copies of the police reports, photos of my injuries, and a detailed timeline of Kyle's criminal behavior. The family members who'd been harassing me with phone calls demanding I forgive family? They got the same treatment, plus legal notices that any further contact would be considered harassment. Aunt Sophia, who'd been the most vocal about Kyle's innocence, actually called to apologize after she saw the photos of my hospital stay. But the absolute best part was watching Kyle's support network evaporate in real time. His friends stopped visiting him in jail once they realized associating with him was toxic. His family stopped sending money once they understood he'd been lying about everything. Even his lawyer started phoning it in once it became clear Kyle was guilty as hell and had no money to pay for a real defense. The trial was a massacre. Kyle's lawyer tried to paint him as a troubled young man who'd been rejected by his only family. But that narrative fell apart when the prosecutor showed the jury video footage of Kyle directing a vandalism crew and witness testimony about him planning the assault. He tried to play victim again, but the prosecutor tore him apart on cross-examination. Watching Kyle try to explain his way out of assault charges was like watching someone play chess against a computer, painful and predictably one-sided. Kyle, you testified that you felt rejected by your brother. Is that why you recruited 3 men to help you assault him with weapons? It wasn't supposed to be like that. We were just going to scare him. Scare him with a tire iron? I didn't hit him with the tire iron, But you watched your associates beat your brother unconscious and did nothing to stop them. He had been harassing us for weeks by asking you to leave his house after you stole his property, and so on. Kyle buried himself deeper with every answer. The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced Kyle to 4 years in state prison, plus restitution for damages to my property and medical bills. With his priors, he'll probably serve at least 3 years. But here's the beautiful part. Kyle's problems are just getting started. See, all those civil judgments I helped his victims file? They're still valid when he gets out of prison. He'll be paying off debt for the next decade. His mom, Lillian, lost her house paying for his legal defense and is now living in a trailer park. She also lost her benefits due to the fraud investigation and can barely afford her cancer treatments. The crew that helped Kyle assault me? Derek number 2 got 8 years for the drug charges. Travis got 2 years and will be on probation for 5 more. Tiffany got probation but violated it within 6 months and is now serving a year in county. And me? I'm doing great. Used the insurance money from Kyle's vandalism to renovate my house exactly how I wanted it. Got a restraining order that's good for 10 years and covers Kyle's whole family. Moved to a better neighborhood with actual security and neighbors who don't tolerate bullshit. Onyx adjusted well to the new place, and the stress from Kyle's harassment campaign finally wore off. My work thrived because I could finally focus without constantly looking over my shoulder. Even got a second dog, a rescue pit bull mix, who's way better at detecting threats than Onyx ever was. The best part? Kyle's attempts to play victim backfired so spectacularly that our extended family basically disowned him. Nobody wants to be associated with someone who violently assaults family members over property disputes. Last I heard, he was moved to protective custody because he pissed off the wrong people in general population. But here's the twist that made everything even sweeter. About 8 months into Kyle's sentence, I got a call from a federal prosecutor. Turns out Kyle and his crew had been running a lot more than just harassment campaigns. Remember all those friends who kept showing up at my house? They'd been using my address and several other addresses of people they'd scammed to commit mail fraud, identity theft, and welfare fraud. Kyle had been the ringleader. My house wasn't just a place to crash. It was a base of operations for Kyle's little criminal enterprise. The feds had been building a case for over a year, and my documentation of Kyle's activities had accidentally provided them with crucial evidence. The federal charges added another 6 years to his sentence. He went from thinking he'd be out in 3 years to looking at nearly a decade behind bars. His mom? She got charged as an accessory since she'd been helping coordinate some of the scams. Lost her trailer, lost her benefits, and is now serving 2 years in federal prison herself. The best part? Kyle tried to claim I was the one who'd introduced him to the scam operation, that I was the real criminal mastermind. Federal prosecutors took one look at my clean record, my legitimate income, and my mountain of evidence against Kyle, then laughed him out of the room. Kyle's final manipulation attempt didn't just fail, it added perjury charges to his sentence. I never wanted a war with Kyle. I just wanted him out of my house and out of my life. Some people call it revenge. I call it justice.